Hello family, I'm Robert and I'm a real alcoholic.
Hey,
I want to welcome everyone to the Atlanta Step Up Society book study. The name of our group is Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. Let's open with a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer. Serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You know, I was reading the other day, and it was talking about, tomorrow is the beginning of spring, right? And it was talking about how the sun, it's kind of like Christmas, talking like a story of like Christmas. And they was explaining that the sun, since we live in the northern hemisphere, and then you have the southern hemisphere, well, America's in the northern hemisphere, so our winters is like, October, November, December, January, February, that's the cold part for us. But on the southern hemisphere, it's heat. When I was stationed in the military, we used to go to in the summertime, we would go to Australia, New Zealand, and it'd be winter. It'd be snow on the ground. Well, it'd be summer where we are. And they were saying that when the sun travels from the northern hemisphere past the equator toward the southern hemisphere, and on December the 25th is when it makes the journey back up. And so the people in the northern hemisphere, we say that that's Christmas, that's Christ was born on, and then they say, well, the entire stars and the zodiac and all these astronomers and all this stuff, the North Star was the cluster of stars. It wasn't one star. But the point was, and it made a lot of sense, is that once the sun starts to journey back to the northern hemisphere and start melting the ice, you know what I'm trying to say? Everything that was asleep during the winter starts to awake when the sun makes the journey back. All the animals that was hibernating, when it started to melt, they started coming back alive. Coming back out and feeding. All the grass that was asleep, covered with snow, when it started melting, it started coming back alive, and the animals start coming back and stuff. And to them, that's the resurrection. That's the resurrection. Even the farmers, and everybody that farms and agriculture, they waiting on spring so they can begin. Everything comes alive. And so I kind of knew this before, and I went back and read it. And to me, it's just all life. And then I started watching around here. We had a real sleepy, cold winter. To me, when I think of cold, this is just me, I only think of Chicago. I done been to Australia. I done been to New Zealand. But Chicago is cold. I have to tell you, that's the coldest place on the planet. I don't care what nobody says. Chicago's so cold. When I was there, Baskin and Robbins was serving soup. It was cold, So I think it's kind of like recovery. For a lot of years, we were asleep. You know what I'm saying? It was like we was under the ice, like hibernating. And now the light has came, and we're trying to resurrect from that sleepiness and to be productive members of society again. And I say that because I think it's a lot of people lately been taking that blessing for granted. Like it don't mean nothing to go back and use. Like it's just okay to keep coming in and out of treatment centers and use at will. And I'm here to tell you, I disagree with that. You know, I was telling people today, if you, it's kind of like what your uncle was saying, if you really enjoy using, then be a man about it. Be a man about it. If you like to stay drunk, be a man about it. I show you some compassion and some love if you want to stay clean. But if you like to walk the streets all night stupid and dumb, be a man about it. Stay out there. Don't waste my time and nobody else's time. If you like to, you know, I was telling guys that smoke around the dumpster. If be a man about it. Okay, I like to smoke. I'm gonna take the risks of lung cancer. I'm gonna take the risk. Be a man about it. So when I was using, I was a man about it. I didn't run in and out of nothing till I was finished. You know, and then I knew I was finished. And so I think that it's time that people grow up. No matter what your choice are, just grow up about it. You know, I had a guy, it's the most insane thing I've ever heard. He came in the program, he used, he didn't wait on us to come get his clothes. He knocked the air conditioner out, went in the house, got his clothes out, then he go to jail, and he got somebody calling up here talking about where his clothes. I'm glad I didn't get to the phone. I would tell her, you come up here and get it so I can arrest your dumb ass for calling. So my point is, this is a blessing. It's something that you should cherish. Something that you should believe in so you can stay clean and sober and so you can help someone else. This is not a joke to me. It's not a game to me. If you want to use, the book say we salute you. We take our hats off to you. Go ahead. Because there's so many people that need this program and they're willing to do it the right way. So, you know, the choice is real simple. It's a blessing, it's an honor to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous for me. I don't take it lightly. 100 years ago, they did not have this program. It wasn't even on the planet. So that means everybody who lived 100 years before us, and that was trillions of people that were alcoholics, they just died of alcohol. Or stumbled on something that made a decision up through their will that was strong enough to stop and stop. But the ones that didn't have the willpower to stop, they just died alcoholics. So God saw fit to put a program like ours into existence to help people. So let's don't take this thing lightly. This is not a program that we should take lightly. This is a serious program for some people. It's serious to me. Get in here, work on yourself, do what you're supposed to do, and become productive members of society. That beacon, that light that shines. So when you walk by, people you could say, I thought that was that guy that was drunk or that female that was drunk. But look at her now. Look at him now. Be an example. Don't take this thing lightly. And I get irritated about people who take it lightly. Because you're just wasting people's time. Be a man about it. Be a woman about it. Don't waste our time. Be a man. Be a woman about it. Go out there. Then when you get through being a man and then whooping you down to a child, come on back. And we'll be here for you. You go on out there and play like a man or a grown woman, you get beat down. But you'll get the promises that come with that. You get the promises for doing this stuff, being in recovery, or you get the promises for not being in recovery. Doesn't matter. Any way you look at it, you're going to get promises. All right, so tonight we're still into the wives. This is becoming a very good chapter to me. There's some deep stuff in here. We're going to start on page 113, down at the bottom where it said, would you suppose? Let me tell y'all, I have to say this to people all over the world. This chapter is getting a lot of people watching it. A lot of people is watching To the Wives. And when my first book study, my very first book study I ever went to, 20 years ago, a guy dragged me to a book study. I really didn't want to go, but he had a car, and I hadn't rode in a car in years. So, I just had to get in that car and ride like a normal human being. Yeah. I was a homeless walker. So I got in the car, and he took me over there, and the guy that was doing the book study was in the chapter 2, The Wise. And what I took out of that was the fact that the women of alcoholics had read the book. They had studied the book. And I was an alcoholic in recovery that didn't even own a book. To me, that makes no sense. That made no sense on the planet. For the women, because they kept saying that the women were reading, and I hadn't even read it. I had to look on, they didn't even have books to pass around then. I was looking at someone else's book. Yeah. They were sharing it with me, like singing in the choir church or something, So I was leaning on reading someone's book. And when I left there, I said, I got to get me a book, and I got to study it. Because I can't let the women who don't even drink outdo me. Because I'm the alcoholic, they're not. That's what I took out of it. So I see a lot of people coming in for the first time, he's saying, well, you know what, they into the chapter to the wise. I'll wait till they start over. I hear that a lot. In spirituality, there's no beginning or end. You just go jump in. Jump in. I go to the gym a lot. They're doing yoga at LA Fitness. Yeah. And I was standing there watching because I want to do some yoga too. But I had already known because I did the step class and I did the other classes. You just get in. If you're a beginner, they don't care how you learn. Just get in the door and start stepping. Eventually, you'll catch on. And there was 2 other ladies that was outside watching with me. And I was listening to their conversation. Girl, I can't go in there. They look like they're too advanced. I never learned that. And I said, I listened to them for a little while. I said, it don't work like that. Nobody stepped in there as a professional yoga person. They stepped in the beginning, and they just fit in till they got one move. Then they practice it at home. Then they got another one. Practice at home. The next thing you know, come back 3 months later, they look like professionals. But they all started in the same spot everybody else starts. You just have to be willing to go in. And it's the same in recovery. You just got to be willing to go in. All right, let's go down to page 113. Would you suppose? Go ahead, Paul.
You would suppose that men in the 4th classification would be quite hopeless, but that is not so. Many of Alcoholics Anonymous were like that. Everybody had given them up. Defeat seems certain, and often such men had spectacular and powerful recovery.
All right, let's stop there. Let me go back one page. I'm just going to go there. You don't have to. On page 110, we're going to talk about the 4th category. That's they had men, alcoholics, and they put them in categories in this one. It said 4, you may have a husband of whom you completely despair. That means that you lost all hope for that person. He has been placed in one institution after another. He is violent or appears definitely insane when drunk. Sometimes he drinks on the way home from the hospital. Remember I told y'all my father was in the mental hospital for alcoholism, and it was 3 hours from Atlanta. I remember them, I was a kid, I remember them riding down to get him. He had been there about a year. And on the way up, he told him, stop at the liquor store. He never got to Atlanta. They put him out in the next city. Perhaps he has had DTs. Doctors may shake their heads and advise you to have him committed. Maybe you have already been obliged to put him away. This picture may not be as dark as it looks. Many of our husbands were just as far gone, yet they got well. That's the category number 4. So when you go back to page 113, it says, you will suppose that men in the 4th classification would be quite hopeless. Hopeless from a state of mind and body. That means they suffer real 100% extremely addictive personality with the mind and the body. The physical allergy and the mental obsession. They in that grip and they can't get out of it. Alright? But that is not so. Many of Alcoholics Anonymous were just like that. I know I was. Everybody had given up on him. Remember I told y'all that I had hit rock bottom so bad and been homeless so long that when I came into recovery, my family was passing a hat around, a basket, taking bets how long I was going to stay clean. He ain't going to make it out of no treatment. They were betting against me. It didn't matter. When I found that out, I sure wasn't going to let them win. You know, defeat seemed certain. That's how they felt about it. Alright? Yet, often such men had spectacular and powerful recovery. No matter how far down you go, the program has a way of going down below you and able to pick you up by the spirituality of this program. It could go down to the depths of whatever you want and bring you alive and resurrected you the way the sun do coming up that equator. You see, I told you, everything gels. When I hit that low like that, I had got to the breaking point where spirituality or religion seemed like a good idea. Because everything I tried didn't work. And I used to have a pastor a long time ago when I was not nowhere interested in nobody's church. I was just doing it for other people, watching my clock. So I've been a good old guy so I can get out and get drunk. And I remember this pastor always say, it doesn't matter what religion you are, if you're Catholic, Baptist, he said it doesn't matter. The Spirit of God always want to go home. Always have a desire to go home, to be with Spirit. I didn't understand what he was talking about because my mind was with the other kind of spirits, you know. But at the end of the day, when I hit rock bottom so bad that the only thing I needed was spiritual help or religious help, it didn't matter. I knew what he was talking about because that part of me that wanted to go home, it wasn't me. That's all I had left was spirit. I had destroyed everything on outside. You know, everything in this outside objective world was gone. All I had left was spirit. So then I understood he was saying the spirit wants to go home. There was nowhere else to go. My body was through. That make sense? The next one, page 114, top.
There are some exceptions. Some men have been so impaired by alcohol that they cannot stop. Sometimes there are cases where alcoholism is complicated by other disorders. A good doctor or a psychiatrist can tell you whether these complications are serious. In any event, try to have your husband read this book. His reaction may be one of enthusiasm. If he is already committed to an institution, but can convince you and your doctor that he means business, give him a chance to try our method, unless the doctor thinks his mental condition too abnormal or dangerous. We make this recommendation with some confidence. For years we have been working with alcoholics committed to institutions. Since this book was first published, AA has released thousands of alcoholics from asylums and hospitals of every kind. The majority have never returned. The power of God goes deep.
There are exceptions. Some men have been so impaired by alcohol that they cannot stop. It's like every brain cell has been warped or destroyed by alcoholism. Sometimes there are cases where alcoholism is complicated by other disorders. And you know, we got this dual thing going on. It's been going on quite a while. You know, dual diagnosed, where you have mental and alcoholism, or physical and alcoholism. There's physical diseases now that people cannot get past and drink behind them. All right. When I was a young man, I had took a course. You know, a lot of times I did things just because I seen other people doing it. But I was a finisher, so it didn't matter. There was some people in my high school taking EMT course. I didn't even know what EMT meant. So I said, I'm gonna take that too. But I had a driving license. So I took the EMT course. It was like 6 weeks, got a certificate. When I got my certificate, they said, now you can get a job. Because I learned first aid, you know what I'm trying to say, and take the pulse and bandaging and all this kind of stuff. They said, you can get a job. You have a driving license. I said, where? You can drive an ambulance at Grant. I went down there and applied, got a job. I was young, 16, 17 years old. I was driving an ambulance. I was driving an ambulance around the city. And I never forget this. I drove the whole summer. Right? And they had the real medics. You know, I was just a driver. But I had learned a lot of stuff. And there was this one guy we would pick up every Friday night. When you drive an ambulance or something like that, you got a lot of routines, the same people. You know? And one guy, and this guy was an Army vet. And he had like one arm gone, and he couldn't walk, and we would pick him up. He would be drunk. You know what I'm trying to say? He would be drunk when we get him, and he'd be cursing and throwing out stuff. He fell out the wheelchair, bumped his head, and we go and pick him up, and he would tell me stories. If my body was all right, I wouldn't be drinking like this, or I wouldn't be doing that. My body. So he could not get past being injured in combat. You know, so he had a physical disorder, and he put the alcohol on it because of all the resentments he had. But every Friday night, and they would send me, I was young and new, they said, go get Mr. So-and-so, I can't remember his name. And I knew his house then. I'd drive over there, and sometimes they send me by it myself, because they don't need no real medical people. It's, come on, get in, I take them down in the hospital, right? And it was really exciting, because I worked the shift when other people that worked all through the week, they'd be off on the weekend. So I seen all the drunks come in. All the drunks. It'd be the same people over and over and over. And so I do understand when they saying that they had mental disorders, but they also had physical things going on that drove them to drink alcohol too. You know? And that's why it says right here, a good doctor or a psychiatrist. They're talking about a doctor that can treat physical stuff and a psychiatrist that can treat the mind. Both of them can tell you whether these complications are serious. In any event, try to have your husband read this book. I was telling a friend today that if you can't do anything to help somebody, you can give them a copy of this book. That's what the suggestion is, and leave it. They'll pick it up. They're going to get back drunk. They're going to see that book. They're going to grab it, read a couple pages, go back out, get drunk. Then they'll read a chapter. Before you know it, they'll be reading it. His reaction may be one of enthusiasm. Somebody read it and get excited, fine. If he is already committed to an institution, but can convince you and you're a doctor that he means business, give him a chance to try our method. Unless the doctor thinks his mental condition too abnormal or dangerous. We make this recommendation with some confidence. Let me tell y'all a story. There's a guy, true, 100% true, that came to our program. When he went to jail. Armed robbery in one of those southern cities in Georgia. Robbed a convenience store. He was on drugs. He went in about 16, 17. Kids know what I'm talking about. 16, 17 years old. Stayed in prison 17 years. And I was talking to him on the phone. He was telling me that, yeah, he used a lot of years in prison because they have this stuff in there. He learned how to make it in there. On his release date, the day he was supposed to get out of prison after 17 years, they wouldn't let him out. He didn't have nobody would sign for him a release location. This man stayed in jail 3 years after his release date. So he was a free man that couldn't go nowhere, had to spend 3 more years in jail till somebody get him out. Can you imagine being free but can't go because nobody will sign you out? I got wind of it. Well, I take that back. My wife got wind of it. There was a parole, or somebody in the correction center was calling up here and was speaking to my wife. And she told me and Ken about this guy. And we started talking to him. And I was like, if he got out 3 years ago, because I had never heard that. I thought you out, you out. But certain cases, no. So I said, well, if nobody signed him out, what makes you think I'm getting to sign him out? No. She said, no, something special about this guy. We signed him out. I went down to the Greyhound bus station and picked him out. I had to do all the release things. They had to do my background check, everything. I went down and got him. When I went to see him, he was about yay big, built like Hercules. Been pushing weight in 17 years. About this tall. Wow. I never seen nobody like that. I've seen football players and everything.
Oh, okay.
So I go and get him, and I asked him, was he hungry, this and that, because I knew he needed stuff at the house. So I drove him to Midtown over here to the Publix. Now y'all know Midtown. I don't want to tell the whole world, but y'all know. So we go inside of Publix. It never dawned on me, never crossed my mind that the man had never been inside a real grocery store. He lived his whole life eating out of the corner gas stations. He never been in a Publix. Kroger's. He said when he went in, they had Piggly Wiggly. And he had, you know, so he never experienced that. So I said, come on, let's go. Jumped out of the car, got in the middle of Publix, and he froze him. Anxiety attack. So I had to grab him by the hand, calm him down, didn't buy nothing, walk him out in Midtown. People whistling at me now. I don't even want to go no far. I hurried up and got him in the car and brought him back here. The power of God goes deep. This man, he has to have 14, 15 years clean, right? About 14. Clean. 14 years clean. He went to jail on robbery. Today, he wears a pistol and has a security company. power of God goes deep. And no anybody right mind, nobody gonna allow you to wear a pistol when you committed armed robbery. But if God is with you, none of that apply. I done seen stuff like that ever since I've been clean and sober. So everybody who don't want to be a part of this God thing, I don't care, because it's good. I seen people come in our program who wrote bad checks. I sponsored a guy who wrote bad checks. Spent 5 years in prison for bad checks. He got out, did the 12-step, worked the program, walked right into the same bank that he was doing the bad checks from, got a checking account, and they lent him money to buy his house. I'm telling you, some of y'all know, you've been around the program long enough to see these type of miracles. You got to let go of the con that you've been playing and play a bigger con.
Yeah.
Because you're too small. What you trying to accomplish too little. You can't play a big God with a small accomplishment. God don't understand it. There's two different worlds. The power of God goes deep. Change any situation to a positive. All right, the next one.
You may have the reverse situation on your hands. Perhaps you have a husband who is at large, but who should be committed. Some men cannot or will not get over alcoholism. When they become too dangerous, we think the kind thing is to lock them up. But of course, a good doctor should always be consulted. The wives and children of such men suffer horribly, but not more than the men themselves.
You have, let's say, you may have the reverse situation on your hand. Perhaps you have a husband who is at large, abundantly, or you know what I'm trying to say, really putting it on big, but who should be committed. Here's the deal. Some men cannot or will not get over using. The book says there's two types, the can-nots and the will-nots. Let's talk about the will-not first. The will-not is a person that comes into our program, go into our treatment centers, go to meetings, and will not do this program. Will not take suggestions, just belligerently not going to do it. They will never recover, y'all. Ain't going to be able to get it. Because they ain't not going to take no suggestion. You tell them walk, they run. You tell them slow down, they speed up. You tell them curfew at 11, they come in at 2. They just will not do this. Totally undisciplined. And then when I go off, they blame me. I was taught by the book. The book says you will not do it. Why waste your time? Seek out another and give him recovery. Because you were wasting your time on the will not one. When you could be 6 more could have gotten clean and sober. The will not ain't going to be able to do it. They will never recover unless they change that will not to I'm willing. Then you have the can-nots. That's number 2. It's easy for me to do the will not first because I love to talk about the can-nots. The can-nots are somebody that probably emotional disorder or mental disorder. But even they can recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Straight out the book. Straight out the book. They can recover if they have the capacity to be honest. The same man who had the people call up here about his clothes do not have the capacity to be honest because he know what he did and he got his clothes, he would never recover until he changed that. That makes sense? The cannots is such a beautiful thing because I had the pleasure and the opportunity of 12-stepping a man who could not read. Couldn't read this book. I would read it, and he had at the time, it was a cassette recorder. Just like we reading in here, I would read it and explain it to him, and he would take it home and listen. When we got to the steps, and doing it 4-step, he did it on the cassette recorder. All his names on the cassette. All the checks and, everything we do in the 4-step. All the resentments, he did it on the recorder. Still clean and sober today. Soon as we got through the 5th step, he told me, this not reading ain't for me no more. This is the last time I'm going through anything and don't read. See, he had never gotten that far in the educational world to think reading was important. But when he saw that he had to read to be, to be sober for his sobriety, to change his thinking, he enrolled in night school. He can read and write today. And he's teaching others how to be clean and sober. He told me it's the only book he want to read. That's just the only one you have to read.
Yeah.
You don't need to read nothing else if you don't want to, but you better get this one, or life will read you. So I have had these type of experiences, and when I was doing the Y before, I never saw this. So I have grown. I've grown tremendously. All right. Some men cannot or will not get over alcoholism. When they become too dangerous, we think the kind thing is to lock them up. But of course, a good doctor should always be consulted. They say, lock them up. The wives and the children of such men suffer horribly. I know, because I'm a child of an alcoholic. I was raised in a family with a stone alcoholic. So I know what the children go to. I told y'all my father used to lay out in the subdivision outside the house, butt naked, drunk. On the school bus come by, all the kids would run out and try to beat me to my house so they can see him. But it affected me so bad that I never wrote that address down that I lived there. I pretend and made believe that I didn't live there. That's why I had that kind of imagination today. That's why I know I can, wherever I create in my mind, I can also be there. Because I played that game as a little boy. It might be hard for other folk, but it ain't hard for Robert. Because I lived like that. I had to put my mind somewhere else and go there. And then I find out in life, I actually end up there. See what I'm saying? So I knew how to do it for myself. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. So it's a horrible situation when you're a little boy and when they say, write your all in school, put your address down, I will put my aunts down. Because their household was a better household than mine. They had a father that was nice, you know what I'm trying to say? A mother that was nice, kids, and I pretended that I lived there. So I already know about being in that stuff. And I'm not blaming it, because my father and mother only did the best they could do. He did the best he can do, and by the grace of God, the power of God goes deep. Because my father ended up in recovery, and he had 12 years when he passed. Some of y'all go up to All Saints. My father was a member up there, right, James?
That's right.
He died clean and sober, and we were the best of friends. So the power of God erased all that. You remember, Ken? It erased all that stuff. All right. It says, but not more than the men themselves. The alcoholics suffer more than the rest of them. The next one, Paul.
But sometimes you must start life anew. We know women who have done it. If such women adopt a spiritual way of life, their road will be smoother.
They telling the women, if you got to lock them up and you got to move on, go ahead. Sometimes you must start life anew. We know women who have done it. If such women adopt a spiritual way of life, their road will be smoother. If they work these 12 steps, their life will improve, and the road that they live or the path they're on will get smoother, get better. All right, let's keep going.
If your husband is a drinker, you probably worry over what other people are thinking, and you hate to meet your friends. You draw more and more into yourself, and you think everyone is talking about conditions at your home. You avoid the subject of drinking, even with your own parents. You do not know what to tell the children. When your husband is bad, you become a trembling recluse, wishing the telephone had never been invented.
All right. If your husband is a drinker, you probably worry what other people are thinking, and you hate to meet your friend. That sounds like they trying to teach these people some 4-step stuff. Right in the 4-step, we got this thing called personal relationship. Remember that? But you got, do you worry, or do you worry about what you think other people are thinking about you? And we suffer from that all the time. We always, I don't have that. I'm like 80% of that is gone. You know what I'm trying to say? Very, very little do I worry about what I think other people are thinking about me. The only time I find myself worrying about what I think other people are thinking about me is when I'm doing something wrong. If I'm doing something that ain't supposed to be too cool, then I'm kind of worried about what I think other people are worried about me if I got caught. That makes sense? But other than that, I don't have that. But that was a process, y'all. I had to go through that 4-step to even be aware of what they're talking about. I remember being a homeless man, walking down the street, and the cars had just came out with the electronic locks, all the way around. And I still remember that sound. I'd be walking up to a car, and a lady be sitting there like, I didn't know what was going on at first. Another homeless man said they think we gonna rob them or something, so they locking the door. I said, wow. Every time I heard it from a distance, whether I was around a car or not, I would worry about what I thought other people were thinking about me. You go to the family reunion, you're worried about what you think other people are thinking about you. You know what I'm trying to say? You go and visit, something, or you work in a place and you use and everybody else don't use, you're always worrying about what you think other people are thinking about you. Same thing we're going through. The wives or our family members are always worried about what they think other people are thinking about them because they stupid enough to be married to that drunk. That's what's going on in their mind. Or the husband is so bad. So they have the same emotional, the same mental feelings that we suffer with. They're also suffering too. So that makes this disease not only a disease that affects me, it affects my family also. And I'm stupid enough to believe that it don't hurt nobody but me. People take hard work because they drunk. The whole cycle got to change because of your drunk butt. I didn't do nothing, I just didn't go. You affect the whole cycle.
That's right.
You affect everything. Come to work high. I ain't heard nobody. Who wants to pay somebody high? the work production that you gonna do is cut down to a minimum. Because if you was a high like me, you was only thinking about getting off to continue to get high. So it do affect other people. So the wives and the children of alcoholics were affected by the disease just like the alcoholic himself. And when I say alcoholic, I'm talking about crackheads too. I just ain't respecting fellowship. You know what I'm trying to say? Because I'm holding their head book. But I must slip it in there once in a while. It's hard to talk to a community when everybody in there done did drugs and then stick with AA. That's not unrealistic sometimes. But they know that because Bill and Bob knew it because they said we did both. High-powered sedative is not no Tylenol. There ain't no Sudafed. They're talking about some narcotics. All right? You draw, here's the deal. I did this last week, but I think I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm not going to walk out and I'm not going to change the camera. We're just going to turn the lights off. So who's sitting by the lights? You got them two over there. Wayne, you got that one. Just wait a second. I'll tell you when to do it. Cut your little bright light right there. You can let that stay on. So we have a little bit of light. It says right here, you draw more and more into yourself. And you think everyone is talking about the conditions in your home. The addict or the alcoholic who drinks withdraws from society. You back up out of society. I was so homeless. You can start hit them lights. Hit them. Cut them off. Cut it off. I was so homeless that I was living in darkness. I had backed up completely out of life. I would watch people go back and forth in life, but I was out of it. My daughters, they grew up. One had a baby while I was using. I was not nowhere near them while they were growing up. I was not a part of life. These women in here who are married to alcoholics and addicts, they also act up out of life because of the disease of addiction. They didn't want to be nowhere around their friends, nowhere around their family, because they thought everybody was talking about them, so they withdraw from society like the addict. This disease affects everybody. Turn the light back on. Recovery is coming back to life. Coming back to your families. Coming back to your workplace. Coming back to being productive members of society. That's what recovery is about. It's like that sun I was telling you about that's coming back to the northern hemisphere, that's lighting up, melting everything. Spring is coming. All the little animals having babies and stuff like that. They all playing, and the worms and the apples and the oranges. The whole thing comes alive. Everything comes alive that was asleep. We are part of that thing. If you want to stay in darkness, I salute you. I don't have no hat to take off. That's what it say. I'm coming right out of the book. Am I right? Right? That's you. I don't want no part of that. If it's a heaven and a hell, I just showed it to you. It's in your mind. State of consciousness. Ain't no place out there. It's right here. Right here. Oh, if you're a true alcoholic like me, that's not hard to figure out. You don't live in both of them. You draw more and more into yourself, and you think everyone is talking about conditions at your home. You avoid the subject of drinking, even with your own parents, your family, you do not know what to tell your children. When your husband is bad, you become a trembling recluse. That's marked, that word means marked with withdrawal from society, solitary. I'm going to read it again. If you are in that condition, you're marked by withdrawal from society. You became solitary, a loner. Wishing the telephone had never been invented. That was just the telephone. Now, everything. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You know what I'm trying to say? Your husband alcohol, he did something stupid. Woo! Instagram. You really messed up. You know? Next one.
We find that most of this embarrassment is unnecessary. While you need not discuss your husband at length, you can quietly let your friends know the nature of his illness. But you must be on guard not to embarrass or harm your husband.
All right, now they're going to change the situation. They're going to give them something to do to work on themselves. You know what I'm trying to say? We find that most of this embarrassment is unnecessary. You don't have to live in that darkness. You don't have to really be embarrassed about it. While you need not discuss your husband at length, you can quietly let your friends know the nature of his illness. Step one, the mental obsession and the physical allergy. The doctor's opinion. You can tell them about the nature of the disease of addiction, the illness of addiction. If you're an addict and you lived in that darkness, anybody, addict or not, family member or not, from what I'm reading, unless I have some kind of warped thinking, if you've been withdrawn from society, if you were living in that darkness like we just experienced when I turned the light off, the first step you make out has to be step one. It has to be step one. That's what they just showed you. Talk about the what? The illness. His illness. The disease. I don't blame a lot of folk if you stay in the illness. But somebody got to tell you when you step out of that place, let me tell you what's wrong with you. Let me let you know about your body and your mind. You got to do that. Now you can go drink coffee as you want to, but I'm telling you, when you drinking it, you better be talking about step one to a newcomer. Break it down, let them see. That's the miracle. That's the first miracle of the whole program of AA. Dr. Bob was a doctor. He was a doctor. He knew about the physical body. He knew about the mind and the body. Bill Wilson was a New York stockbroker. Fast-talking, money-slinging stockbroker. Con man. But Dr. Bob was a country doctor. Them two don't mix. A lady came in here today. She said, can I call on the telephone? I'm looking for some bed. We don't do telephone. We do Facebook if you want to find out about a bed. We take the pictures in the morning when the trucks unload and we'll put them on there and you can look on Facebook. I'm from New York. We don't see things are different down here. I said, I don't know if they that different, but they got thrift stores in New York. You don't have to come down here and tell me where you from. I'm just telling you what I do. But as a Southern man, y'all know it pissed me off. You know, I just didn't want to go there. You know what I'm saying? You know so much, then go back to New York. That's what I want to tell you. You know, I don't need no bed. I got a house full of beds. In fact, I got 25 beds coming from J.C. Penney Friday, fool. But if you had had a little bit more respect. But that's what Bill and Bob should have done. That's what normal people do from the South. And know we've been doing that from day one. Ain't nothing changed. They've been doing that every time. North and south, always. That's always going on. That's how Bill and Bob should have done. But Bob was a doctor. Do you know this doctor listened to this New Yorker, slick talking, fast talking New Yorker like that lady did me, tell him what was wrong with him medically. Okay. That was the first miracle of recovery. Ain't no doctor gonna let no New York, fast talking, slick, the con man, money maker tell me about medicine. But the Bob listened, took it in, learned it, and stayed clean and sober. That's the miracle. So when we get people coming from darkness to light, it's our duty to teach them that miracle. The same miracle has to be passed through all of us. You can't, if you don't get the miracle somewhere, it's going to stop right here. You're going to get it and step on it. Whether you believe it or not, it's going to come here. You're going to learn about this disease of addiction, this illness. You have to learn that. The wives in here knew it before the husband did. They were teaching their own husband what's wrong with them. Now, you know the ego drunk husband ain't going to listen to no wife. Not normally. But when it comes to rock bottom, you will listen to anything. We got time for one more. But you must be on guard not to embarrass or harm your husband. Next one, Paul.
When you have carefully explained to such people that he is a sick person, you will have created a new atmosphere. Barriers which have sprung up between you and your friends will disappear with the growth of sympathetic understanding. You will no longer be self-conscious or feel that you must apologize as though your husband were of weak character. He may be anything but that. Your new courage, good nature, and lack of self-consciousness will do wonders for you socially.
When you have carefully explained to such people that he is a sick person, when you sit down with your families, you know, I have done that a lot. When people come in and their sons or daughters, especially people that wasn't in the fellowship, and the daughters is out using, you know, and like the mothers and stuff will be coming in our store. They be our customers. And Ken, you done this too. They be our customers, and they will probably get up enough courage to walk up and say, "Can I have a word with you?" Then they'll tell the story. You know, my daughter been out and she's been used for 20 years. And I always see the shame and the guilt and the embarrassment they put on themselves because they think they done something wrong. Because the child is doing that and they blame themselves for not being a perfect parent. And no, I would bring them upstairs, I get my chalk book out, I open up the doctor's pen and I explain the illness to them, how it works, and it's just a disease. And they go back, they contemplate on that, and they come back and they thank me. Because for so long, they've been praying and asking God what they did wrong. Well, you don't have to do that no more. Because you ain't do nothing wrong. They have an illness. They have a disease. If she had cancer, would you be blaming yourself? They say no. Well, treat this as another form of cancer. Stop blaming yourself. And they get it. Alright? So it says that you will have created a new atmosphere. See, the power of God goes so deep that when you explain the illness to the person or to their families, it changes the whole psyche or the consciousness of that family. They get more spirituality about what's going on than ever once they understand the illness. Mama told me, the daughter came back, tried to get some money. She said, "I know you got an illness now. Nothing coming out of it. You need to go see a doctor." To change the atmosphere. You know, I can't run the guilt trip on me no more. But it's an illness. So it says that barriers which have sprung up between you and your friends will disappear with the growth of sympathetic understanding. I was watching Oprah, and Oprah had this in the OWN channel, this entertainer, I forgot his name, and he was an addict, and he was saying that everything is wrong. The way our society is treat alcoholics and addicts is wrong. Put them in jail, lock them up, throw away the key. He said what they need is compassion, sympathetic. Because we suffer, I watched the whole program, we suffer from a disease. It affects our mind and our body. I'm not saying that we should erase all the wrong things we've done. We probably should stand up and own up to that in our means. But if society, if everybody understood the nature of the disease, that would create a new atmosphere. Right now, everybody want to take all the people in the streets, crackheads or whatever, like they're my uncle, that's what he told me. Every crackhead in the street, need to line them up, take a shotgun, and blow their heads out one by one. That's what he told me. Now, where's compassion in that? That means nobody gonna get a chance. You know what I'm saying? To be clean and sober. So, sympathetic understanding. We have to understand what's going on and come up with a better, more spiritual way for everybody. You will no longer be self-conscious or feel that you must apologize as though your husband were a weak character. Some of these guys around here that keep using something like that, they're not weak individuals. They just don't know what they have. And they think willpower can beat it. And your willpower is not going to beat it. You can't do it. You have to have spiritual help. Spiritual help. He may be anything but that, not weak. Your new courage, good nature, and lack of self-consciousness will do wonders for you socially. The wise start to recover. I want to thank y'all for being here.
All right.